All right, guys, what's going on? SteelTwins coming back at you with weekly NFL predictions. It is week 14 already, and I am joined with a special guest, a good friend of ours. We actually did some live reaction collaboration last year with him. Yindra Max Sports. What's going on, brother?
Hey Rob, how you guys doing? I know that your brother's at work right now, but it's always great to collab with you guys. It's always great to be on your guys' channel. I say it on all my streams. Yins Tour, some of my favorite Yinsers on YouTube, man. It's great to be on here.
That's much appreciated, brother. Thank you very much. Even when one brother's at work, the other one's still, providing business with the channel and the content. So once again, much appreciated. Let's get into the week 14 games, and we're going to start off with probably the worst Thursday night football game thus far this season. It is the New England Patriots at the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kenny Pickett is expected to be out for at least 2 to 4 weeks after having a surgical procedure done to his injured ankle. So we are going to be seeing Mitchell Trubisky versus Bailey Zapp. Yippee! What's your prediction, brother? Knowing that you're a Steelers fan, first of all, what's your thoughts heading into this game, and what is your prediction?
Okay, so I'm gonna try and keep this at a minimum here. Um, like we said, thank God that this is actually the Thursday game, so we get to get it out of the way early. But yesterday was just disgraceful on so many levels. I mean, the weather delay definitely didn't help out, but even before that, it's like the play calling looked the same as if Matt Canada never left. Kenny Pickett, you guys nailed it in your post game last night. The dude's soft. You know, I tried to, never that I would wish for him to get hurt, but this is what now, at least his fourth injury since last year. And honestly, you know, I really don't think it'd make a difference who is at quarterback for this game because it's just going to be the same offense as, Faulkner and Sullivan. They're interim for a reason. They should definitely uh, be put back in their places after this season at their respective positions if you have to keep them, and then go outside the organization for a new OC, Frank Reich, who I've wanted since last year. But that's neither here nor there. Patriots have pretty much been punting the season away, but I say it doesn't really matter because Arizona was in that same predicament yesterday. So I really hate to do this, but I'm going to take the Patriots for this one because Belichick just always exposes Tomlin even further for what he really is as a head coach. Just a compiler, just a cheerleader. And until Tomlin is able to beat Belichick, let alone with an undermanned team that we have going in Thursday night on a short week, I have to take New England. I hate to do it. I think we can win, but TJ being unknown, Kenny Pickett being out for this game, Landon Roberts being unknown, we just have so much stuff to deal with right now. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with New England. And I also just want to say that um, my picks right now are not final. My final picks are going to be out on Wednesday, so I can, take the time to get more notes, stuffed up and everything. But for right now, I'm going with New England.
Yeah, I can completely understand where you're coming from. Like this, I mean, the Steelers have lost a lot of momentum, losing that Cardinals game. I mean, for God's sake, there were more weather delays than there were touchdowns, like you stated in your post game.
That's right.
I mean, that's just sad. That's despicable. It's not good. And we stay at home, which is a plus, but we're hosting another 2-10 team, which arguably is worse in Arizona. I can't name you one good player off the Patriots team. Maybe Ramondre Stevenson, but I don't know what his status is going to be for the game since he got hurt with an ankle injury as well. On paper, this seems like a favorable matchup for the Steelers, but people said that as well before the Cardinals game, and look what happened. There's no way. If you really think about it, there's no way the Steelers could potentially lose this game, right? But knowing Mike Tomlin,
Right.
knowing the Steelers, they make the impossible very possible. So New England has the opportunity and the ability to probably provide the upset of the week, quote unquote. I have to agree, unfortunately. Like, especially since Kenny Pickett is not going to be starting in this game. I mean, like, quite honestly, there's not really much of a difference except Kenny doesn't turn over the ball, but there's, other reasons, to why he probably hasn't turned the ball over because of how he plays the quarterback position. I mean, when he's in there, he doesn't really provide much. It's not like we're getting outstanding points left and right out of the blue when he's in at quarterback. We struggle to get points with Kenny as quarterback. I don't see how that changes with Mr. Trubisky, who's less trustworthy and just not that much better than Kenny Pickett. Hence why he's the backup. As much as I hate to say it, and quite honestly, I need an upset of the week with the weekly predictions. I can see New England pulling off the upset. If this were to happen, if the Steelers were to lose to 2 straight 2-10 teams, then there needs to be some serious change. I mean, they already got one guy out the door, Matt Canada. Thank goodness. He was a problem, but not the main problem.
Absolutely.
So if the Steelers lose to 2 straight 2-10 teams, then they truly need to look themselves in the mirror before the remaining 4 games after the Patriots game. They really got to do some serious evaluation, as Mike Tomlin would probably like to put it, with his political quotes and stuff like that. So as much as I hate to say it, I think I have to agree with you, Yindra Mac. New England's going to get the upset. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. Hopefully the Steelers can bounce back and get a solid victory. I don't think it's going to be a convincing one or a good victory at that, knowing this team, but we'll see what happens Thursday night. So
yeah, definitely. It is a knock on wood type of game,
Yeah, absolutely. You're right about that. After that, we got Sunday games. We're going to start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons are first place, 6-6 in their division, the NFC South, I believe, while Tampa Bay is just right behind them, I think, as well as New Orleans. That division is pretty close. It's not a convincing division. It's probably the worst division in the NFL right now, but, the division's up for grabs for either one of these teams, and 2 of these teams are playing right now, Tampa Bay and Atlanta. So what's your prediction with this one?
This one's a little tricky for me because on one hand, the Bucs went from looking like a low-key playoff team in the NFC to now pretty much looking like the team that I expected them to be. Like, whoop-de-doo, you beat Carolina yesterday. You guys are still just not really a good team altogether. So that's the story with the Bucs. And then the Falcons, over the course of the past 4 or 5 years for Pick'em for me, Atlanta's been the most unpredictable team. Like, I can never predict them fully. I mean, yesterday I actually picked them to beat the Jets, and I got it right for once with them. But still, like that, it just stands to reason. Like, I never really know which Falcons team we're gonna get. But for those fans, guys, that do follow my channel with pick'ems, this is a situation of whenever I'm in doubt, I go home team. So I honestly think that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to take Atlanta simply because they're the home team. And plus, I think their defense will be able to put some pressure up on Baker Mayfield in this one. And plus the Bucs, I mean, they've just been on a bad slump despite that Carolina game. So I'm going to go Atlanta for this one.
You see, I'm the same way with you with Atlanta. They're very unpredictable. You never really know which team you're going to get. Are you going to get a competitive team or a team that's going to get blown out? I mean, that's just the Atlanta Falcons for you. Tampa Bay, they're coming off a solid win against the Carolina Panthers. I mean, the Panthers are pretty much, they just got eliminated from playoff contention to no one's surprise. 1-11 goes to show the type of team Carolina is. But Tampa Bay's coming off a solid win there. They're definitely going to want to try to play better and progress, especially with the division up for grabs with Atlanta not convincingly being first place. For this one, I'm actually going to go with Tampa Bay. I just feel like they're the better team overall. They got the better talent. Atlanta, I mean, they got a tough win against the Jets. I'll give them that. But against the division rival, although it's in their territory, it's in their place, it's at their home. Tampa Bay, I feel like Baker, I can't believe I'm saying this about Baker, but Baker seems like he's got a new lease on life in Tampa Bay with the targets that he's got. Mike Evans is coming off yet another, his 10th straight 1,000-yard season. Chris Godwin's still a good target. Rashid White, their running back, he's having a really solid year as that versatile back. Their defense can kind of make plays here and there with some of their notable names there. I think Tampa Bay can get this one. I think they can pull off the victory and stay in the running for the division and maybe even a playoff spot. Yes, with Baker Mayfield. I mean, that's crazy to think about. Coming into this year, I didn't think Tampa Bay was really going to be in the running. I don't think they were going to be this close, but here they are. And I think as the season closes up, I think Tampa Bay definitely steps up and plays out and potentially gets the division, especially since New Orleans, who was my favorite to win the division, has really, really played down. And I think right now Tampa Bay just seems like the favorable matchup, at least in my opinion. We'll see what happens between Tampa Bay and Atlanta and how New Orleans pretty much tries to bounce back from their disappointing season. But I got Tampa Bay for this one. Next game, we got the Detroit Lions at the Chicago Bears. Do I even need to ask your prediction here?
No, I don't think you do. I'm going Lions all day long. Sure, the Lions jumped up to a big 21-0 lead, like not even halfway through the first quarter down in New Orleans yesterday, but they allowed the Saints to hang around with them a little bit. And then you got Chicago. One thing I will give the Bears, two things actually. Number one, they are coming off their bye week, so they are fully rested for this game. And two, they did play Detroit pretty tough the first time they played, but still the Lions were able to come away with a win because the Bears are just the Bears and that's what they do. But still, Detroit, I mean, they're having a phenomenal season. I really do think they can make some noise in the NFC playoffs as a top seed if they do get it there, because it's not really a given with how well Green Bay's been playing lately. But I don't think the Lions should have any trouble in this one. I'm going Detroit.
No, even if it's a NFC North division, I mean Chicago's just trying to get by at this point. A lot of hype coming into the season for Chicago with the moves that they did, during the draft process, getting DJ Moore, a lot of hype from Justin Fields. If you just give him the right target, the right receivers, maybe he'll progress. He hasn't really done that. He's had his moments, but that's just a problem with Justin Fields. He's very inconsistent. Doesn't appear to be the guy for Chicago. Detroit, I mean, they're definitely living up to the hype, unlike Chicago. They're 9-3. They already have as many wins as they did last year already. Dan Campbell, we've said it several times within the weekly predictions that he's just changing the culture in Detroit. He has that vibe where you just want to play for him. You just want to run through a brick wall for Dan Campbell. Jared Goff's looking very convincing as a quarterback. They got great running backs, great targets, good defense, a young team at that. Their rookies are really standing out. I mean, Detroit all the way. Give me Detroit to win against Chicago on the road. Next game, we got the Indianapolis Colts at the Cincinnati Bengals. What is your prediction here?
Um, with this one, see, like it's hard for me to really get full on board with the Colts, even with the winning streak that they have, because I really don't know how much longer they can keep it up. But it seems like they've been playing real well over the past month or so. And I think that just the advantage with the Bengals not having Burrow for the rest of the year and just an uncertain future in general with them as far as Burrow's health goes, I think Indy's going to be able to keep it up. I like how they've been playing defensively. I like how they're able to, sustain a good offense even with the absence of Jonathan Taylor. But like I said, I really don't know how much longer they can keep it up. But I think they have another soft opponent coming up here with an undermanned Bengals team who played tonight against Jacksonville. So I guess tonight will truly be like the say so for me for the Bengals. But yeah, for right now, I'm gonna go with Indy to keep it rolling.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Again, this is being recorded Monday before the Monday Night Football game between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, me and Dan have stated, without Joe Burrow, Cincinnati is nothing. Not to take anything away from Jake Browning, but I mean, it's like Joe Burrow who got paid $250 million to Jake Browning, who's now making, his second or third career start. I mean, you guys already know the difference. Without Joe Burrow, Cincinnati's just going to try to continue to push forward and fight the best that they can, but without their star quarterback, there's not much that they can really do. Unlike the Indianapolis Colts, they lost Anthony Richardson, the first-round quarterback, early in the season, and Gardner Minshew has stepped in and has really been a solid fill-in, a solid starting quarterback for the Colts, who's really gotten them in playoff contention. I believe right now they hold a wild card spot. The Colts are definitely going to want to continue to keep a hold of that. And I mentioned Gardner stepping up, but so has their backup running back in Zach Moss. He's really had a resurgence of his career with Indianapolis stepping in for Jonathan Taylor. Their receivers have surely stepped up. Michael Pittman has really started to come into his own slowly but surely as a number one. Their defense has definitely stepped up big time. With the guys that they got. I got to go Indianapolis here. Again, like Cincinnati is pretty much done for me. Again, I don't know how many times I got to say it. That's just the way I see Cincinnati for the rest of the way. The Colts, they got a lot of momentum coming off a good overtime win against a division rival in the Tennessee Titans on the road, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So give me the Colts right here, sincerely. Next game, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Cleveland Browns. I wonder if Joe Flacco is going to be starting for this one. I have no idea, though. We'll see as the news comes out throughout the week. But what's your prediction for this one?
Oh, which one you said we're on again? I kind of zoned out
No,
for a
you're good.
second.
Jacksonville Jaguars at Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, like you said, I think the Browns will be possibly rolling with Joe Flacco again, who pretty much looked his age yesterday against the Rams. For those of you that still don't know, I do live in the Cleveland area right now because I moved to Cleveland last year for a job opportunity to work for my headquarters, which is headquartered in Solon. So I do get Browns coverage over here. But, so I had to watch that over the 49ers and the Eagles yesterday. And it probably, looking back on it, probably would have been for the best because I know San Francisco just dominated Philly yesterday. But, like, Flacco pretty much looked his age yesterday. He looked terrible against the Rams. And the Browns defense has been giving up a lot of points. And they got off to a historically really good start. It looked like that Watson or no Watson, the Browns are just on a mission this year. But lately, like the Browns, like I said, they've been giving up a lot of points. And, with Jacksonville, they've been on a tear. And Trevor Lawrence, I've been saying he's a top 10 QB in the league. And I'll even go as far as say that in the AFC, he's top five, maybe even top three, because that just seems to be the culture with Jacksonville now. Now that Doug Peterson has done a phenomenal job with overtaking the Jaguars down there in Duval County. Like it really is an amazing transition of what Jacksonville once was. And you got to give a lot of credit to Doug Peterson. So the Browns, they're on a losing streak once again. It's just the same old story with them. They can never find the right QB. They're on their 37th quarterback since coming back to the league in 99. And Jacksonville, like I said, regardless of what happens tonight, I'm going to go Jacksonville on this one. I just think they're head and shoulders a better team.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the record says so. The record that they got definitely backs up the talent that they have and the performance that they play out on the football field. Cleveland's defense is pretty much the only thing that they can really hold on, but even then, they couldn't really stop Puka Nacua last week. They couldn't stop Cooper Kupp getting pretty much the game sealer touchdown and all that. I don't know who their quarterback's going to be. It could be Thompson Robinson. It could be Joe Flacco, PJ Walker. I mean, it's pretty much a coin toss when it comes to Cleveland at this point. I mean, even when Watson was in there, Cleveland wasn't that convincing. He wasn't really doing much. Let's be real here. Kind of like the Steelers with Kenny Pickett, not really doing much when their starting quarterback is in there. It's just pretty much trying to get by, just trying to rely on the defense. But give me Jacksonville here. I mean, I know that defense of Cleveland's really going to try and play tough, play hard, try to limit Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence and their targets and their offense. But I mean, I don't think they're going to be able to do that, at least not consistently. So give me Jacksonville here to get the victory here on the road. Next game, we got the Carolina Panthers at the New Orleans Saints. Yet another NFC South Division matchup. What is your prediction for this one?
NFC South looking like what it was last year. The winner of that well, the quote unquote winner, I should say, of that division is just going to earn a wild card loss to most likely the Dallas Cowboys. So I really don't know who the best team in that division is because all four of them suck. But Carolina's easily the worst of them. The Panthers, I feel bad for the Panthers in a way because like Frank Reich was hired by him and he was shown the door last week. And I really think that even though he's not really a good head coach, I really do think that he is a good OC. As you know, again, like if you guys follow my channel, I've been screaming all off season, hey, we need to hire Frank Reich as an OC. Which is something I still want. He like him and Byron Leftwich are 1 and 2 for me as far as who the next OC for us should be. But Carolina, they've had a really bad season nonetheless. The New Orleans Saints, they've been a big disappointment for me. I predicted them to win the NFC South at the beginning of the year, and they have just really disappointed. Like I said, defense has been strong for the most part, but then there are times where like their defense just looks like bottom tier of the league. Derek Carr has really had an up and down year, and that's not what the Saints, you know, went for him for. They went for him to be their franchise guy. Well, at least maybe even until they can find that next quarterback to overtake the Drew Brees era. But Derek Carr, I think, is really disappointing me this year. So again, I think it's going to be one of those games to where I got to pick someone to win because I don't trust either team. But I'm going to go with the Saints because Carolina's just awful. And I think the Saints do have more at their disposal than the Panthers do at this point. So I'm going to go New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, very well said about New Orleans. Again, I had New Orleans being the hot favorite to win the NFC South. A lot of hype with Derek Carr coming in as a quarterback. After all the years in Oakland and Las Vegas with the Raiders, but this year he's been very inconsistent, very disappointing. I mean, the whole Saints team overall has, but most importantly, Derek Carr. New lease on life. Great targets, solid running back duo, but like all together, they are just not gelling. They just have not been able to execute properly. Their defense has had their moments, but again, very inconsistent overall by New Orleans. I did hear that Derek Carr did suffer a concussion. He's in concussion protocol this week. So if he's not able to go, then they're going to have to rely on Jameis Winston for this one. I don't think it really matters because the Carolina Panthers just aren't a good team. They're really trying to do what they can to salvage whatever when it comes to Bryce Young's career at quarterback. Considering what they passed up on. I mean, they had Stroud right there in the palm of their hand, and they just pretty much flicked it away and went with Bryce Young, what seems to be the a big blunder by Carolina's sake right there. So I mean, they're doing what they can for the rest of the way and for their future. They're going to try to salvage whatever they can. Try to hope that Young can be a solid starting quarterback, if not a full-fledged franchise quarterback. Although being the first overall pick, that's what you hope for. But Carolina is going to try to do what they can for the rest of the way. I don't think they really get many wins. I don't think they get one right here. So whether it's Derek Carr at quarterback, Jameis Winston, I don't think it really matters. I don't think Carolina can really pull off the upset, quote unquote. Although I had them as my upset last week, they didn't really do anything for me. Thanks, Carolina. So yeah. So give me New Orleans with this one. I think to get a win at home. So the next game we got the Houston Texans at the New York Jets. I don't know who's starting at quarterback for the Jets. I know Tim Boyle was benched for Trevor Siemian, so I would probably anticipate Siemian to start here, but you never know when it comes to the Jets at quarterback, at least until A-Rod continues to try to push forward for a comeback. Although what's the point at this far into the season with the Jets pretty much out of reach of playoff contention? Let's be real here. But what's your prediction here, Yender?
Before I get into this one, just want to piggyback off of something that you said with CJ Stroud. I mean, I'm gonna be fair with the Panthers because to be fair, I kind of get why they passed on CJ Stroud because OSU quarterbacks, the reputation that Ohio State quarterbacks have in the NFL. So like I can't really fault them for that. And plus Bryce went to Alabama, but Bryce never even won a national title with Alabama. But it was like a complete Uno reverse card. CJ Stroud, I hope he does get, offensive rookie of the year. He's been a magnificent story this year, and I'm rooting for the kid. I hope he does well. But yeah, that's just something I wanted to add in right there. But with this one right here, um excuse me, with the Texan we're on Texans Jets, right?
Correct.
Yeah, with the Texans and Jets, well, I mean, I pretty much just said it with CJ Stroud. Turning in a phenomenal rookie year, great story in the NFL. And then it's funny with the Jets, it seems like I've given them way too much credit than what I was supposed to give them because before that Charger Monday night game that they had, I said the Jets went from being the most overrated team in the league to the most underrated team in the league because of how they played on defense. But the Jets, I mean, they've lost every game since I've said that about them. So I think I just kind of cursed the Jets in a way right there. Sorry, Jets fans. But, it just doesn't seem like it's getting any easier for the Jets right now, as Tim Boyle definitely is not going to make much of a difference, as they just can't get any cohesion with offense. They will play tough defensively, which I think will be the only challenge for CJ Stroud in this game. But in the end, Houston's just the hotter hand coming into this one. They pulled off a nice win over Denver yesterday, and I got them taking advantage of, a Jets team that's just on a bad losing streak right now and an uncertain future with them. I don't know if A-Rod's going to come back like he says he is, but regardless, I'm going to go with the Texans here.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets, I mean, their defense, just like the Browns, it's the only thing that they got hanging on for the rest of the way. The Jets are 4-8. If they want a shot at making the playoffs and A-Rod truly trying to make a comeback after tearing his Achilles, earlier in the year, they need to win the rest of the way. But I don't think that happens. Again, I don't know who's starting at quarterback. I would assume it's Simeon because Wilson got benched, Boyle got benched, and Simeon got his name called. So I'm assuming Simeon is going to be starting in this one. But the Texans, they're in the hunt. They're in playoff contention. Stroud's having a miraculous rookie season as the quarterback for Houston. He did lose a big target and fellow rookie Tank Dell, to a fractured fibula. That's a devastating loss. That's his deep threat.
Yeah,
But,
for sure.
Stroud still got hella targets with Nico Collins definitely coming to his own as a number one. Robert Woods, who's a veteran, Dalton Schultz, two good running backs. Their offense is still very good, very productive. Their defense is very compelling. Will Anderson has definitely been coming to his own week by week this year into his rookie year. Derek Stingley, since coming back, has definitely has looked like a legit cornerback. When they selected him not too long ago, early in the draft, a couple years ago, their defense has been very credible. With Stroud going up against the Jets defense, it's definitely going to be a tough matchup. I can see this game being very close. I mean, it always is, and it has been all season when it comes to Stroud and the Texans against their opponents. Some of them have been heartbreak losses. Some of them have been big wins because of Stroud. Some of them because of the defense and everything like that. For this one, I don't really see the Jets pulling off the upset. I don't see the Jets pulling off the victory. I just can't see it. I really can't, even in New York. So I think I have to go with Houston to get the victory here and remain in the playoff hunt. That's for sure. Next game, we got the Los Angeles Rams, who are coming off a big win against the Cleveland Browns, at the Baltimore Ravens, who are coming off a bye week in which they were no doubt the biggest winner, and they didn't even play last week. So, what's your prediction for this one?
Um, with this one, it's interesting because if there's anything to know about the Baltimore Ravens in the Lamar Jackson era, they just don't lose against NFC teams. Lamar is 17-1 in his career against the NFC, which is just absolutely mind blowing to think about, you know. So I mean that alone for the Ravens is a confidence booster. And another thing, another huge advantage that they got for this game is that they're also coming off their bye week. They're fully rested. They have a 2-game lead on the AFC North. I think they're currently second in the AFC right now behind Miami. So, I mean, the Ravens have two huge advantages in this game at their disposal. Not knocking at the Rams or anything. I mean, I think they've been playing really good football ever since Matthew Stafford came back. I think that was the confidence booster that they needed. Like, they got the sweep in over the Seahawks, and they swept the Cardinals as well. I mean, not that sweep in Arizona is a huge deal or anything, but like They're picking up wins that they need to pick up, and they proved to me, in my opinion, that they're better than the Seahawks right now. And they're on a tear. Like they've been doing a lot better offensively. That Ayers guy at running back they got has been a big X factor for them on the ground. And of course, I don't know if Cooper Cup is going to be fully healthy for this game. I assume he is, but Puka Nakua has been a really good story for the Rams this year as well. While I do think the Rams will put up a good fight against the Ravens, in the end, I got to go with the hotter hand here. And like once again, like if you guys follow my weekly picks, you probably know who I'm going with because like I always give the advantage to teams who get more rest for the game, be it if they played Thursday night or if they're coming off their bye. And that's what the Ravens are. So unfortunately, I really hope the Rams can pull off the upset, but in the end, I'm going to go with the more rested team, and that is the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm probably going to have to agree with you right here. I mean, Baltimore's just got a lot of momentum. You know, they won two straight before their bye week, and during their bye week, I mean, the main two, AFC North teams just right behind them, the Steelers and the Browns, they completely shit the bed. They completely failed at trying to remain within the division. So Baltimore was definitely the biggest winner in the AFC North last week. They didn't even play. Now they're coming off the bye week at home against the Rams, who are coming off a very convincing and solid win against the Cleveland Browns, where, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Rams have won three straight. So, that offense and Stafford with Puka Nakua, Cooper Cup, they got their main running back. They're really starting to get a groove going, trying to get some chemistry going as the season progresses down to the playoffs. The Rams are going to want to be vying for a spot. They're going to want to be playing hard and going. What they did against the Browns defense was very convincing and very good. I would like to hope and think that they can do it against Baltimore, but this time around they got to go all the way to the other side of the country on the road against Baltimore in enemy territory, with Baltimore that has a lot of momentum. And like you stated, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens against NFC, I mean, he's practically unstoppable against them. It's just something about Lamar against NFC opponents where it's like he's got a chip on his shoulder or something. Like, I don't know what it is, but Lamar is pretty much and practically unstoppable against NFC matchups. So as much as I hate to say it and agree with you, I think Baltimore, they're just, the hotter hand at the moment. They're going to want to keep a hold or regain, considering they were on the bye week, regain first place in the AFC, try to get that first round bye, that's for sure. So give me Baltimore on this one. I do hope that the Rams can pull off the victory on the road, but I think Baltimore, in a tough matchup, in a close matchup, it should be a very good matchup, might I add, but I think Baltimore does end up getting the victory, unfortunately. Next game, we have the Minnesota Vikings, who are also coming off a bye week, against the Las Vegas Raiders, who I believe are also coming off a bye week. So two teams that are coming off a bye week will now be facing each other this week, Minnesota and Las Vegas. What's your prediction?
Um, Again, this one may not be as obvious as it seems to be on paper here, just because of the fact that the Vikings have been a very interesting team this year. They lose Kirk Cousins for the year. I don't know if he's honestly going to be back as a Viking next year, but I think that in the end, he gives them the best chance at winning in a way. So, I mean, there's that with the Vikings. Then they lose Justin Jefferson for a bit and they lose their running back. One of our former guys, Josh Dobbs, he's been a really fine story for the Vikings this year, and I'm still rooting for him. I hope he does well. But yeah, Minnesota, despite all that, they've been a bunch of battlers this year, and they're still right there in the NFC, excuse me, in the NFC playoffs. So, I mean, Minnesota's shown a lot of resilience this year, and you got to give them credit for that. But, despite them coming off their bye, they had a really bad night last night on Monday Night Football against the Chicago Bears, where Josh Dobbs was honestly the main culprit. I mean, he threw four picks. You just can't do that, you know, when you're battling for a playoff spot. Granted, two of them weren't his fault because they were tipped, but still, you've turned the ball over four times against a team that's really not even that good. And then you got the Raiders. They've been an interesting team as well. They finally cut the cord with Josh McDaniels. And I got to say, Antonio Pierce, they seem to have newfound energy. with Antonio Pierce, and it seems like Devonte Adams is happier. It seems like the team in general is just happier. Josh Jacobs is starting to get more touches, and he's starting to become more of that X factor and that big game that the Raiders have had over the past season and a half, pretty much since he's been the league leader in rushing. And Vegas, like Minnesota, they're coming off their bye as well. So I really don't think either team has an advantage in this one. So honestly, for my pick 'em right here, I'm gonna go upset. I'm gonna go with the Vegas Raiders to get the job done here because, like I said, even though neither team really has an advantage in this game because they're both coming off a bye and they're both fully rested, I don't know. Minnesota, I just don't know about the Vikings' short term future right now as far as their offense goes. And Vegas, they seem to have been stepping it up a little bit more and they have some positive momentum on their side. So I'm actually going to go upset here and take Vegas to beat the Vikings.
Which I could absolutely 100% see. Both teams are coming off a bye again. I believe both teams are they actually have a string of a losing streak, you know, at the moment. So like one team's going to finally break the ice and get a victory, a much needed victory, especially with the playoff picture winding down. Minnesota, yeah, like the Monday night game against Chicago, Josh Dobbs definitely had a struggling performance, four interceptions, like you stated, practically cost them the game against Chicago. And yeah, what's their head coach name? Kevin O'Connell. I think he did state, that they were going to look over the quarterback position over the bye week and kind of like rethink or reevaluate who's going to be starting, whether it's going to continue to be Josh Dobbs, who they traded for, or Jaron Hall, the rookie backup that they got. So I would anticipate Jaron Hall to start in this game. I think they still go with Josh Dobbs. But, after the performance that Dobbs did have, it begs the question, can he bounce back? Can he have a better performance? Considering I believe Justin Jefferson is off IR, he is coming back, which is going to be a big plus for Minnesota and that offense, and Josh Dobbs at the same time for that offense. While the Vegas Raiders, ever since Josh McDaniels was fired, their GM was fired, they practically clean house. Antonio Pierce has stepped in as interim head coach. It seems like a new lease on life for the players, for the Raiders organization and culture altogether. They're on like I think a 2-game losing streak before the bye, but with Pierce in there, it just seems like players want to play for him. They want to do whatever it takes to get a victory. Max Crosby, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, the star players like that. The quarterback, Aiden O'Connell, who's a fellow rookie, I think a 4th-round rookie, something like that. He's not really lighting the league on fire, and nowhere close to that. But compared to Jimmy G, he's more safer with the ball. He's trying to get the ball to Adams, to Jacoby Myers, his targets, Michael Mayer. You know, with this game, it could really go either way. Both teams don't have a lot of momentum. Like you stated earlier. But I think for this one, I think Minnesota gets the victory. I think they get the bounce back victory after a poor performance Monday night in prime time after the bye. I think Minnesota bounces back. I think Dobbs bounces back with the addition of Justin Jefferson. I think Minnesota tries to get the train rolling, tries to get some sort of momentum, before, the playoff picture winds down. They try to vie for a playoff spot despite the season that they started with, which was a losing season. They were practically terrible before they bounced back until Kirk Cousins unfortunately got hurt, hence why Dobbs is the quarterback. So I think they try to salvage whatever they can and just get by with what they have remaining for the season, get the victory here on the road against Las Vegas. Next game, we have a division matchup. Seattle Seahawks at the San Francisco 49ers, an NFC West division matchup. This should be a good one. What's your prediction for this one?
I agree. I do think this is going to be a good matchup here, despite what the 49ers did to Philly yesterday afternoon. Um, Honestly, I really would not overlook Seattle in this game because the last time these two teams played each other was on Thanksgiving night, and the 49ers were able to get a convincing win over the Seahawks. But there were points where Seattle did give the Niners a little bit of a scare, more specifically in the third quarter, where they had the pick six and then they stopped the Niners a couple of times before the 49ers just pulled away in the fourth. So honestly, this might not be as easy of a game as one might think for this one, but I got to tell you, there seem to be two things. There seem to be two different 49er teams this year. You got the one that started off 5-0, they're world beaters. Everyone's saying they're the best team in the NFL. They got a cakewalk to the Super Bowl. Then they go through some injuries and they get on a 3-game losing streak and they look terrible in all three losses. And right on cue, I'm like, the Niners need their bye week. They need a break or something. And literally right after that Bengal game they had at home, it was their bye week. And I'm like, wow, their bye week could not have come at a better time. And ever since that bye week, they've won every game. And now they're like right back to where they started at the beginning of the season. They're back to being the world beaters. They're back to being that dominant team in the NFC. And they definitely proved it yesterday in Philly, where the Seahawks, I mean, they're on a bad losing streak right now. And it doesn't get easier because Seattle has a really tough rest of the season on their hands. So I really don't know. I mean, I think Pete Carroll can definitely settle the troops in order and get things on the right track for the Seahawks. And like I keep saying, if you follow my picks, because the Seahawks played last Thursday, generally I give the advantage to the team that played on last Thursday. So I do think that serves as a factor for Seattle in this one. But I'm going to go against that for this matchup right here and give it to the 49ers. They're just playing too well right now.
Yeah, coming off a very convincing and dominating victory against the Philadelphia Eagles. That game was definitely must see. That game, had a lot of back and forth trash talk between both teams and organizations and fan bases, to be real. And San Francisco backed up every single word. Deebo Samuel pretty much was the dagger in the heart of the Eagles in that one. 3 touchdowns. Brock Purdy had himself a standout performance. The whole Niners team, on the road against the Eagles, an NFC Championship matchup, and they had a very dominating and convincing win against arguably the most complete and talented NFC team, or probably overall NFL team this season. They had a dominating performance. Now they head back home against a division rival in Seattle, who's coming into the game with 3 straight losses, I believe. And like you stated, their schedule doesn't get easier. They got the Niners for this one, and then next week they got the Philadelphia Eagles. So the next 2 games for Seattle are going to be very, very crucial if they want to keep their season and their playoff hopes alive. If there's one coach that can get the team rallied up and get the team to regroup, get together, and play their best football, it is Pete Carroll. He's done it before. He's no stranger to this. The team that Seattle has is a very, very convincing team. It's a very talented team. They added so much this offseason throughout free agency and the draft. They gave Geno Smith that extension after having a great resurgence, being the starting quarterback for Seattle. Geno had himself a stud performance last week against Dallas, but ultimately Dallas was able to get the victory on Thursday night. See, with it being a division matchup, it could really go either way. I could see this game being very close, possibly down to a game-winning field goal from both their kickers. But I think at the moment, San Francisco is just... they're on a winning streak. They got the hot hand. It's in their house. It's in their territory. I know Seattle's going to try their hardest. They're going to bust their ass. They're going to try to play their best football to keep their season alive. But if there's a team that's going to want to kill that chance and end their season practically, for the most part, it is San Francisco. When San Francisco is on the groove and when they're healthy, they're arguably the best team in the NFL. So I think I have to go with San Francisco to keep the train rolling, keep that momentum going, keep the winning streak alive, and definitely vibe and fight for first place if Philly, with that loss that they sustained to San Francisco, loses some momentum. And San Francisco doing what they're doing, they keep that momentum going. They're definitely going to want to fight for the first place in the NFC. So give me San Francisco to win this one. It should be a good matchup. It could very well be close, again, down to a game-winning field goal, but I think San Francisco does get the win at home. Next game, we have the Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs. Both teams are coming off terrible losses. Kansas City lost last night, Sunday night, against the Green Bay Packers on the road. Buffalo has had a down season, a terrible season, especially Josh Allen. This one could absolutely go either way, but what's your prediction for this one?
I said at the beginning of the season that the Bills would not win the AFC East, but I still, you'd be crazy to say that at that particular time that they would not be a playoff team. So like I said, no, they're not going to win the East. I think that honestly goes to Miami this year, but I still had Buffalo as a wild card, obviously being the first wild card, but the Bills have definitely been disappointing this year. I mean, all that talent they got, that firepower on offense they have, and they're 6-6. I mean, that just ain't good. I mean, sure, you could say what you want about Ken Dorsey. I think he's a very underwhelming OC, but Josh Allen has led the league in turnovers this year. He has the most interceptions, I believe, and he's just not been playing up to par, you know. So the Bills, I mean, they're in a lot of trouble as far as the AFC playoff race goes right now. They are coming off their bye as well, so I think that will serve as a confidence booster from in this one. Plus, it seems like in the regular season, they know how to beat Kansas City. I mean, they went into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs last year, but I really don't know if you can say that fully confidently if that'll be the case this year. The Chiefs obviously coming off a really bad night last night in Green Bay, which I actually called the Packers would pull off the upset, and they did. But, Kansas City, I mean, you can say what you want about, the refs hosing them on that PI call that was not, but the Chiefs literally got a gift call right before that when they called unnecessary roughness on Green Bay when Mahomes was clearly in bounds. I mean, that is just such a soft call, man. I mean, I really don't know what the NFL does to distinguish penalties like those anymore. It seems like you just can't lay a finger on the QB anymore. But regardless, I think the Chiefs are still the team to beat in the AFC, but they look a little more vulnerable this year, if you know what I mean. They're still really good. They're still a great team, but I think this is the most beatable Chiefs team that I've seen probably since that 2017 season when they got off to that really good 5-0 start. And it ironically started against us when we beat them for like their downturn and eventually going one and done in the playoffs. But still, I would not take Kansas City lightly. I just don't know about the Bills. Their defense is definitely taking a step back. And now with now with this arrest warrant of Von Miller, I just don't know. I just think that would be the last nail in the coffin for Buffalo. Like if they lose one more game, I think the Bills are done. And it just doesn't get easier going into Kansas City. The Bills have the third hardest schedule remaining in the league or for the rest of the season. And I think Kansas City exposes that. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to get off the schneid, avoid consecutive losses. They're back at home. I'm going to go Kansas City here.
Yeah, I don't recall after Kansas City losing one game, they lose the next one. I don't recall Mahomes ever losing back-to-back games. Um, Kansas City, I do agree, they're I mean, when Mahomes is at quarterback, they're still the Chiefs at the end of the day, but yes, like you stated, they are the most vulnerable, or this has been the most vulnerable Chiefs team probably ever since Mahomes has stepped in at quarterback, I mean, four losses already at this point, I don't think many of us really predicted the Chiefs get four lost overall, before the season even started. They already have it right here. May not even be the last loss that they sustain this season. Who really knows? I don't think this game against Buffalo, they lose two straight. I don't think they have their fifth loss here. Buffalo has really struggled. Josh Allen has really struggled. I mean, coming into the season, I anticipated a lot more from Josh Allen, a lot more from this Bills team. I thought they would be a surefire playoff team. Right now, as they're 6-6, coming off a bye after losing in overtime on the road against Philadelphia. Josh Allen's, he has a losing record. I think he's like 0-5, 0-6 in overtime. But this year for Buffalo, when they are on the road, because I seen the stat earlier, When they're on the road, they are 1-4. And
Ouch.
coming off a bye after losing in overtime on the road, they're now back on the road against a team like Kansas City. It doesn't favor in Buffalo's. It doesn't favor for Buffalo. It really doesn't. With everything that they sustained with Josh Allen in the offense, them firing Ken Dorsey. Some people have even stated that he was just a scapegoat. He wasn't really the problem. Who freaking knows? Their defense has sustained injury after injury, problem after problem. It just not has been a good season for Buffalo. This is where they're going to have to step up and perform if they want a chance to save their season, if they want a chance to get a playoff spot. I don't think that they can do it, though, based off what we've seen from Buffalo all season. This should be a good matchup. This should be a fun matchup to see, but these are two teams that are not as dominant as we thought that they would be coming into the season. Nowhere near the teams that they were back in the playoff matchup that they had a couple years ago, where it went into overtime. Nowhere near like that. But Kansas City is obviously the most convincing compared to Buffalo. They're more vulnerable, but they're still more convincing. They're back at home after losing Sunday night. I think Kansas City is going to want it more. I think they get a bounce back victory. It just doesn't look in Buffalo's favor. So I got to go with Kansas City on this one. Next game, we have the Denver Broncos, who lost against Houston, which ended their 5-game losing streak against the Los Angeles Chargers, who beat the Patriots without even scoring a touchdown. I believe this is a division matchup. This is a AFC West division matchup right here. So what's your prediction for this one?
Yeah, the Chargers. I mean, I say it every week with them. Until they're able to beat a team that's upper echelon and a team that, is a legitimate threat in the AFC, let alone in the entire league, I just can't take the Chargers seriously with the way that they keep choking games, the way that they lose these one possession games. I mean, I buy Justin Herbert. I think he is a phenomenal quarterback, but unfortunately for him, he's just trapped with this inept Chargers franchise here who just pretty much ruins everything they touch. And ironically, the Chargers have one of the best quarterback histories in the entire NFL, from like Dan Fouts to Philip Rivers. If you want to say Drew Brees, go ahead, but he wasn't really like a big factor when he was a Charger. But you get it. I mean, the Chargers actually have a really rich QB history, and yet they are never able to get over that hump. They kind of remind me of the Falcons of the AFC. They're good, but you never really take them seriously, even when they're a legitimate threat. And this year, there's no excuse for them. They're last place in the AFC West right now. Brandon Staley is a terrible coach. I do not know for the life of me how that man still has a job. It's just funny how Matt Canada got fired before he did. But yeah, the Chargers, as long as Justin Herbert is in a Charger uniform, they ain't gonna win anything with him. And then with the Denver Broncos, I mean, they've easily been one of the biggest surprises this year. They had that 5-game winning streak going on. It got snapped against a good Houston team. And sometimes I even forget the Broncos had that game where they allowed 70 points to Miami. I even said, like, I don't think that'll define Denver's season, but it's just a really bad benchmark for them on the year. And they've done nothing but just recover so well from that game. Their defense has been really impressive. Russell Wilson Russell Wilson has quietly turned in an underrated season in my opinion. And I think that he's really on pace to have that comeback player of the year type of season. And, I think Denver gets off, I think Denver washes that bad taste out of their mouth they had yesterday against Houston. They go into SoFi and they get the job done over the Chargers. Like I said, I don't trust the Chargers at all against good teams. And with Denver winning 5 out of their last 6 and them being in the playoff hunt, I think Denver gets the job done over the Chargers.
Yeah, I would have to agree. You made the comparison of the Chargers to the Falcons. I would have to 100% agree with you on that. They're virtually identical. They both got head coaches that make you scratch your head and make you think, how the hell are they still employed? How the hell do they still have their head coaching roles for both teams? Both of them should arguably be the next coaches to be fired. The Chargers, they have the talent. There's no doubt about that. When you look up and down their roster, it's arguably the most talented team in the NFL. And they have just underachieved year after year after year, especially this year. You know, Denver, they've stepped up big time. Sean Payton as the head coach. After a miserable start to the season, like you stated, the 70 points they allowed to Miami, they have stepped up. They have bounced back big time. 5 straight wins until last week against Houston. But even then, it goes to show the type of team that Denver has become since then, since they started the season with the 5-game winning streak that they had. The competitive team that they are, how they've stepped up, how they've come from starting the season. Russell Wilson hasn't been lighting the league on fire, but quietly he's had a solid bounce back year compared to last year. Last week, he was more turnover heavy than he ever was this season. 3 interceptions, very costly interceptions, but Russell Wilson overall has had a solid bounce back year, probably enough for comeback player of the year, like you have stated. I might have to agree with you on that because I can't name another player off the top of my head who could win that award. But for this game, division matchup, I think I have to go with Denver. It's just the Chargers are too unreliable, too untrustworthy. I mean, again, they got the talent, Herbert, the weapons and everything. But I mean, like, you can never trust the Chargers. They are the, whether it's San Diego, Los Angeles, they are the chokers. That's how they forever will be. It doesn't really matter the type of talent that they got. They're just very untrustworthy. Denver, I think after losing a competitive and tough matchup against Houston, they're going to want to bounce back. They're going to want to get a victory back, try to get back on the winning streak, get another win for the win column. I think Denver gets it right here on the road against the Chargers. This could very well also be the game where the Chargers head coach loses his job. I highly doubt that, but I would have to think that he's the biggest head coach on the hot seat currently in the NFL. I can't see him lasting too long for the Chargers at the moment, but give me Denver for this one. Sunday Night Football, we have a divisional matchup, a must-see Sunday Night Football, that's for damn sure. We have an NFC East matchup, the Philadelphia Eagles at the Dallas Cowboys. What's your prediction for this one?
Yeah, huge game right here. Obviously, always bad blood whenever these two go at it. It is one of the biggest rivalries in NFL history. Um, the Eagles, like we stated earlier, terrible game yesterday against the 49ers. They got blown out at home. They just couldn't finish tackles against them, hence why the 49ers were just able to get all those extra big play yards against Philly. But I really don't know how much longer the Eagles can slump like that. But even then, before that game, like, sure, they were pulling off all the wins and they were finding ways to win, which is in the NFL, winning, finding ways to win games no matter how ugly they come is always your number one priority. But Philly on the pass defense this year has been very suspect. I mean, they're okay with the run defense, but that pass defense has been beaten and bruised this year. And I knew against the 49ers that would serve as a problem for them. And by God, did it ever serve as one. And that's, I think, the biggest reason that they got blown out at home. But then, and it really doesn't get easier as the Dallas Cowboys have that type of offense where they have the weaponry and the star and the firepower at Dak Prescott's disposal right there. So I definitely do think that that pass defense is gonna be challenged once again. But the thing that makes this so hard for me to pick personally is that I really don't know still if I can fully trust the Cowboys against a winning team because sure they had a thrilling win against the Seahawks last Thursday night and Seattle was, 6-5 at the time. So I mean they did beat a team that was over 500, but I mean like when I say beat a team that's over 500, I'm talking about like upper echelon teams. However, the one thing that I will give the Cowboys credit for, aside from their defense, which everybody talks about, they always seem to play the Eagles better in Dallas than they do in Philly. Like I cannot like the last time that I remember the Eagles winning in Dallas was the year they won the Super Bowl. Like even last year when they made it back, they lost to the Cowboys on Christmas Eve in Dallas last year with albeit Gardner Minshew was the quarterback in that game, but now they got Jalen Hurts coming in. So that's why I'm a little undecisive about this game. But I got to tell you, the second biggest advantage for me here. Actually, there's two other big advantages now that I think about it. The first one, the Cowboys when they won, I heard it on Westwood One on the radio on my way home from work. The Cowboys have now won 14 straight home games. Like they have been nearly unbeatable at home since last year. So I definitely do think with them having home field advantage, that's going to be a big factor. And the second thing, like I keep saying, if you follow my picks videos, you probably know where I'm going with this. The Cowboys played last Thursday and they stay at home. They have those 3 extra days of rest. The Eagles are coming in limped up after that 49er game. So I think for right now, I'm actually going to go with the Dallas Cowboys to get the job done over Philly. I can't really say it's an upset because as I'm looking at the spreads right now, the Eagles are currently favored. But honestly, I think it's a game that can go either way. So I'm actually going to go with the Dallas Cowboys, taking advantage of the rest, having that home field advantage on their side. I'm going to go Dallas on this one.
Yeah, I mean, this game, it's must see Sunday night football, prime time. This is the type of matchup that I think just about any NFL fan is wanting to see, although it is the Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Cowboys, two of arguably the most hated franchises in all of football. It's still a must see matchup, especially with the NFC West. Philadelphia's first place, Dallas is not too far behind them. And I believe if Dallas were to win this one, I don't know if they would, take over first place in the not only the West, but I think they would also be tied for first place in the NFC, if I'm not mistaken on that one. So, and I know earlier this year, Dallas did lose to Philly, but that was in Philly. Since then, Dallas has been unbeatable, 4 straight wins. You stated it, and I didn't even know about this stat. 14 straight home wins dating back to last year. 6 of them, they've been undefeated this year at home. This game's at home. Philly's coming off a devastating loss, their second loss this season against San Francisco, where they got blown out in their house. Now they got to go on the road against a hot and fired up and good Dallas team this year with a lot of momentum, 4 straight wins. They're going to want to dethrone the Philadelphia Eagles, take first place in not only the West, the division, but the NFC playoff picture. Dak has really had arguably his best, no doubt his best season this year. Arguably MVP. That's definitely an argument with how he's been throwing the ball. He hasn't been as turnover heavy as he normally would be. Getting the ball to CD, Brandon Cooks, his targets like that. Their defense, they can provide sacks. They can provide turnovers, You did mention Philly's secondary. It's very worrisome. Last week, more so ever showed that, when Brock Purdy threw, I believe it was over 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Dak has definitely had a much better season than Brock Purdy. So, Dak's going to want to be looking to have another standout performance, another stellar, consistent performance through the air at home. I think I might have to agree with you. I don't think Philly sweeps Dallas. I don't think Philly beats Dallas at home. I think Dallas continues the undefeated streak at home. I think they get the victory here in prime time. It should be a fun matchup, a great matchup, a matchup to definitely tune in for Sunday night. I think Dallas does happen to get the victory. They win 5 straight. It's going to be crazy to potentially see Philly lose 2 straight, which with their team and their roster and who they have as head coach, you wouldn't really see it, but a team like Dallas that, has been playing their best football recently, ever since losing to Philly. I don't think they're going to want to have that momentum, stop. And I don't think they're going to want to lose to Philly once again and get swept, especially them being in their own stadium. So give me Dallas on this one for Sunday night. Should be a good matchup, however. Now we get into Monday Night Football. We have 2 Monday Night Football matchups, actually, which I'm actually surprised to see here. First one, we have the Tennessee Titans at the Miami Dolphins. I mean, do I really need to ask your prediction on this one, Andrew Mack?
Keeping it short and simple, the Miami Dolphins for the third week in a row are my lock of the week. Miami wins this one easily. The Tennessee Titans are winless on the road this year. They're winless away from Tennessee.
Mm.
When they lost to the Colts yesterday, that was their first loss when they were not in Tennessee this year. So I mean that alone just tells you how favorable the Titans are when they play in Nashville. So keeping it short and simple, Miami's my lock of the week.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think they were my lock of the week as well last week and the week before that. I lost count. I mean, Miami's a dominating team, a convincing team at that. They're first place currently because of Baltimore's bye week last week. They're first place in the AFC. They're going to want to keep a hold of that. They got the most favorable matchup against Tennessee this week compared to Baltimore against the Los Angeles Rams, at least in my opinion. Miami's going to want to keep a hold of that. And I think Tua has another good game. I think Tyreek Hill has another good game. Miami, for sure, my lock of the week. Simple, to the point, Miami. Next game, and to close out week 14, we have the Green Bay Packers at the New York Giants. Not really a must-see Monday Night Football game. Two of these Monday Night Football games are not really must-see. But I know when it comes to the Giants, I know that they designated Tyrod Taylor to come off of IR. I don't know if he'll play this one. It could very well be the Tommy DeVito, the Italian Stallion, as Dan likes to call him. Give him that nickname. But, Green Bay's coming off a great win last night, Sunday night against Kansas City. But what's your prediction for this one?
Well, the Giants, I mean, they've been a disappointment for me too this year because I expected them to be back in the playoffs because I really thought that Brian Dable was the right coach for him. But it just seems like, he's regressed in a lot of areas this year. Regardless if Daniel Jones was healthy or not for the Giants, I really don't think it make a difference because Daniel Jones, it's looking more and more last year was a fluke for him, and that Giants defense is very up and down this year. Green Bay, I mean, they've been a surprise in some ways for me this year because get a load of this. At the beginning of the season, I said the Packers would finish last place in the NFC North this year. That statement is aging like milk right now. Like Green Bay is honestly looking like a dark horse NFC playoff team right now. They had a great night last night against Kansas City. Jordan Love is really improving week by week, and he turned in another solid performance last night against Kansas City. So even though the Giants are coming off their bye week, they do have that extra rest factor, and they're staying at home, so they don't got to go anywhere. And the Packers, I guess if you want to say they have a little bit of a long week as well because they're coming off the Sunday night game, but they do have to travel. I don't really think it makes a difference. I go with the team that has the hotter momentum. And in this case, it's Green Bay. They've won three in a row. Yeah, the Giants have won two straight, but they always beat the Redskins. Yes, I still call them the Redskins, okay? Kill me down in the comments if you want. But they always beat Washington and they beat the Patriots, which New England, they've been pretty much punting this season. So it's like two very uninspiring wins for the Giants, in my opinion. Now they got to go up against a hot Green Bay team. I'm going with the Packers.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with you right there. Ever since, the Steelers beat the Packers have been on an undefeated streak, a winning streak at that, as a matter of fact. And their two recent victories, the Lions on Thanksgiving, and now the Kansas City Chiefs at home last Sunday night. I mean, Green Bay's really stepped up big time. So has Jordan Love. It feels like week after week he's really starting to gel well and starting to grow as a quarterback with his targets. Just overall, that Green Bay team just really vying for a playoff spot, and the rest of their schedule, if you look at it, it's very favorable. I mean, their destiny is in their own hands. It's just up for them to execute, to perform, to stand out, to get the wins, get the touchdowns, all that stuff. And I think Green Bay does it again this week against the Giants. The Giants, I mean, very disappointing season compared to last year where they somehow made the playoffs. I know that they've had, injuries hit them very hard at quarterback, but even then, it's like that extension of Daniel Jones is definitely a big mistake on their part. And even the Bulls' part, I would have to think that he played a part in getting Jones to be extended, although I do feel like the Bull is still the guy in New York. The Bull just comes off as a very passionate and type of head coach that you want to play for. I still think he's the guy at head coach, but, just as long as Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback for the Giants, I think it's very hard to take him seriously unless he can step up his game and provide something. But this was the year for him to do it, and he has completely disappointed big time. So has the entire New York Giants team this year. They're 4-8. I don't think they really get many wins later the rest of the way. Green Bay, absolutely. I can see them, if they keep it up, I can see them winning the rest of their schedule. As crazy as that very well may sound, and fight for a playoff spot, get a playoff berth. So I'm going to go with Green Bay here to close out Week 14. Green Bay's hot right now. I think they keep it going. I think they get their 7th win this year. I think they get the dub on the road. But anyway, guys, that is Week 14 picks and predictions. Let us know your picks and predictions down in the comments below. And I want to thank Yinger Max Sports for joining me for the Week 14 predictions, man. This Thursday we got the Steelers and Patriots. Hopefully we can come out with a dub, but I'm not too I'm not too optimistic about it. Like, how would you feel?
I don't blame you, man. I'm not optimistic either. I mean, all season long, I was like, this is finally going to be the year we beat the Patriots because I'm sick and tired of losing to these guys. It's a Thursday night game. It's on my birthday. I have the day off, just a nice, relaxing day. And then they just turn in a game against the Arizona Cardinals like that. And it's like, wow. I mean, I don't even know what to say about this game now. But like we said at the beginning, it's a knock on wood type of game in my opinion. I think we're in for a really ugly game because I heard this stat on Westwood One last night when I was listening to the post game between the Chiefs and the Packers. The Patriots are the first team since the 1938 Chicago Cardinals to lose 3 straight games, all with 10 or fewer points allowed. Like, they lost that Germany game to the Colts where they allowed 10 points. Then before their bye, they allowed 10 points to the Giants and lost. And then just yesterday, they lose 6-0 to the Patriots or to the Chargers. So I mean, I think we're in for a really ugly offensive game where it's going to be defensive driven, but the only reason it's going to be defensive driven is because both offenses are going to be stale. And if you want to see two fellow Italians yelling at it on YouTube, I am going to be co-streaming the game Thursday night with my buddy Bobby Beantown, Sportstown Breakdown. He's a diehard Boston sports fan like I am a Pittsburgh fan. So if you want to go check out that stream, by all means, go ahead. But yeah, bottom line, I'm just not feeling optimistic for it. But hopefully we can keep up the trend of not losing consecutive games this season, and hopefully we can get the job done. I mean, we did beat the Titans on a short week earlier this week. Hopefully we can do the same against the Patriots, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll definitely see when it comes to Thursday night, as we prepare for another edition of Stressful Steelers football, as always, whether if it's Sunday, Monday, Thursday, even Saturday, after, the Thursday games, we got 2 straight Saturday games ahead of us after Thursday, but we got to stop at Pittsburgh Thursday for the Patriots game. We'll see what happens. Hopefully we get the dub. We'll see, but once again, want to thank you for joining the weekly predictions. You mentioned your birthday is Thursday for the Steelers-Patriots game, so I want to wish you an early happy birthday, my friend. And
thank you, appreciate it.
Hey, absolutely, of course. And everybody, please subscribe and check out his content. Yinger Max Sports. I'll definitely leave a link to his channel, probably pinned down in the comment section. That's what I'll do. So definitely give him a look. Definitely give him a subscription. That's for sure. But anyway, guys, that is the Week 14 predictions. Let us know your guys' picks and predictions down in the comments below. And Yinger Max Sports, you are more than welcome to join me for the Peace Out show. So without further ado, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later. Peace!